Amen.
Amen.
Rosie, please. Sorry. Let me say a toast to the President of the Republic of Kenya.
The President.
Thank you. Rosie, for test.
The 4 test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you so much. I think maybe we can just, wait. I don't know why on my screen I'm not seeing so many people, but then when I go to participants, the number increases. But anyway, I think we can just take off with introductions. Just maybe tell us your name, the club that you belong to, your classification, the occupation for guests, and how you feel after being locked down, how you feel about the extension of the 21 days curfew. So we can begin off with Emma. Can start off with Emma. Left the city. We can take Rosie.
Huh?
Rosie.
Yes.
Just tell us your name, education, which club you belong to, and how you feel about the 21-day curfew extension.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Okay, I am Rosbella Ototo from the Rotary Club of Nairobi, Madaraka, classification, media, radio traffic. As for the social distancing, what do you need me to say again? Sorry, my concentration is below sea level.
Extension of the curfew.
Oh yeah, that has affected me personally. So, tuseme aje, mbwana alipatikana huko before lockdown, so bado atabaki tu huko. That's the much I can say. Otherwise, the rest of my life is very okay. Alipatikana nje ya town. So, catch feelings, but it's okay. Catch feelings za uhuru, lakini it's fine. He's protecting us, so it's okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
it.
Jenny Mungai. Jenny Mungai is not online. Okay, Karimi, are you there?
I'm here. My name is Karim Indiga, past president of the Rotary Club of Madaraka, currently guest of the club. My classification is renewable energy. And how do I feel about the 21-day extension? It's now same. At this point, really, it is what it is. Yeah, so I've just gotten used to it. We're going to miss 2. If things go wrong, we'll miss yet another holiday, May 1st. Hopefully by June 1st, they let us go. Fuel is 92 bob. We can't go anywhere. I have a lot of feelings about it, but I'm also kind of happy to that me and my family are healthy. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Keshi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Keshi Mukuria, classification finance. I'm a member Rotary Madaraka. The 21 days extension, it's made no difference in my life. The first time it did because it found me on the other side, but I managed to sneak in. So now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I'm choosing random people. I'm just choosing randomly because I don't think we have time to. Unless we just cut off and just do introduction, and maybe you just take your club for the sake of roll call. Henry? Okay, Henry's not there. What's this?
Hi, Prezo.
Jennifer? Oh, hi.
How are you? Sorry, I was
I'm
multitasking.
good. Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? Greetings.
Just saying your name and your classification and your club.
Henry Ndirangu, IPP, RC Madaraka, Classification Corporate Communications.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Josh? No, wait, Josh said he was going for dinner. Okay, Castel?
Greetings all, habari zenyu.
Nzuri sana.
Willis Castle Thaddeus Nalwenge, current president Rotary Club of Westlands. My classification is investment finance, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Madam President. Josh here.
Oh, hi, Josh. Mm-hmm.
Hi. You're not going for dinner. It's not like I'm leaving the house. My name is Josh, Bongo, member of this club. Classification is risk management in non-renewables. Sawa Malaki.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh.
In oil and gas. Yes. Happy to be here. Happy to fellowship. I haven't noticed, honestly, any difference now that they've extended. I wasn't planning to leave Nairobi. So now that I'm here, I can still move around. I can go to the supermarket. I can go to the office. We are still working. So, yeah, extra 21 days, no big difference.
Are we allowed to ask Josh a question?
Yes.
Ask. Castel.
The petroleum prices that were international petroleum prices that are happening right now, are we gonna get any benefit from it? Ama tutakaa tu ngumu na hii serikali?
It will trickle down, but not to the extent that people might think that it could to bob. Fuel, the least you expect it to be is on the 67.
Okay.
Thanks.
Taking that about 50 bob of your current price is on taxes and not on the actual cost of fuel.
So, Vipa Peke.
That you can have a petrol car, yes. You can use that. If I have an old car, putting Vipa might not necessarily reflect in any change in performance of the car.
Josh, cheza chini.
I'm just helping a brother out.
I hope none.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, sawa. Yeah, so
Actually, correction. I intend to have an old car. I want.
Okay, about yes, so my name is Ozem Murioki, the current president Rotary Club of Milimani. Happy to be here. Classification, I'm in clothing and textiles. And my feelings about the extension, I think we are young enough. Let the president open up. Let's achieve herd immunity as quickly as we can. Fine. They are saying it's the mild version of it. Those who have to go, let them go. Majority of us will survive. That is it.
Asha.
I co-sign.
me kwanza, I'm still stuck with the textiles. Are you making masks? Are you part of the
Yeah, actually, yes. If you
mask cartel?
No. I'm into PPEs. I'm also into ladies' fashion wear and yeah, related items. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ladies' fashion wear.
Ladies' fashion wear. Any other person who can introduce themselves, please do right now.
Thank you, President. The name is John Wamanya. I am now currently virtually a member of Rotary Club of Madaraka, but when I'm not virtual, Kampala Metropolitan, and pleasure being here. Oh, the classification is architecture. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Any other person before we get to the business of the day? Okay, fine. Henry, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, kindly tell us about where the district's efforts have reached in terms of, I believe you're in that committee, yeah?
Yes.
Thank you.
And we've just come from a meeting. So when COVID was declared a pandemic, we came together as a district and sought ways in which we can assist. Our initial thoughts would be to assist the medical field, but we figured out that if there is any government or international support that would come, it would go to the frontline medical staff. So we deviated from that and looked at supporting the behavioral change campaigns around hand washing. We realized that much as you'd want to preach about hand washing to everyone, not everyone has the facilities. When some companies initially did CSR and provided soap, you'd find that people are very happy to receive the soap, but they do not have running water on a regular basis. So we started started with 100 tanks to be distributed in informal settlements around Nairobi. And after that, we moved on to the counties of Mombasa, Kwale, and Kilifi, which at the time were all hotspots for COVID. So far, we have covered a total of 19 counties, and we are moving on to 34 in the next week or so, 34 counties. And as at early last week, we had created room for 1 million hand washes. So 1 million people had used our facilities across Kenya, and we continue doing that. The way to do it is we are raising money from ourselves as Rotarians, individuals, and also from our networks. We have received so far, I think around 7 million, including 2 million shillings that was handed today by one of the Rotarians. And we are looking at having, from our projections or pledges that are solid, we are looking at having 10 million by the end of this week. This includes money from RI, which has been given, which is usually given for relief efforts such as this. Our implementation is not just from a central district team, but through our clubs, that we encourage clubs to take up projects. For instance, if it's us who have a link with where we do Chapati Forum, or the homes that we support, or the vijijis we support, like the one where Mzee Owenga comes from, we look at what are their needs and support the fulfillment of their needs. This way, we continue to impact the same people that we impact through our projects, and also looking at our communities and seeing if there are any low-hanging fruits that we can exploit. We do not necessarily, so that's one way. But we can also, in the absence of a project that we want to fund, we can also send to the common pool, and this money will have impact in areas beyond us. I'm talking about 34 counties. Maybe we are all reminded that as Rotarians, we aim to impact even the people that we will never ever meet. So this is how we are doing it. A poster has been sent, and if I'll just request Muto to resend it on the group WhatsApp message, and we continue raising funds. The idea is if we can raise funds through one of the club members, then we can decide whether we are going to put the funds in the central kitty and they go to do the bigger job, or we can pick up projects COVID-specific projects within the areas that we have impact currently as a club. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you for that report. I don't know whether anyone has any questions. And for your information, all of you, Janet Makoha, Janet Okumu is our club representation to that committee. So any questions you may have, or we can discuss about it. I don't know whether anyone has any comments about it.
Well done to the team.
Yes,
we
yes.
shall support
Thank
fully.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
All right. I have the privilege today of introducing our speaker. Our speaker is also, she's a guest of the club, and it has been a while that we had someone who talked to us about what he or she does. Just give me a second, I find her profile. Her name is Maryana Munyendo. Okay. Okay, Maryana Munyendo loves children and is passionate about making a difference in their lives. She dreams of a world where children can play without fear. She's a graduate of Communication Studies from Daystar University and the Aga Khan Graduate School of Media and Communication, and the Aga Khan Graduate School of Media and Communication, who has also studied leadership at the Harvard Kennedy School. She has had extensive professional experience in the education sector, having worked as a trainer with LearnX Africa Limited and Melky Solutions, and as a student sponsorship and programs coordinator at the Starehe Boys Center and School. In July 2016, she founded Missing Child Kenya, led initiative that uses technology to search, trace, and unification of missing, displaced, lost, and found children. Her organization operates the only toll-free helpline in Kenya, 0800 223344, dedicated to respond to the emergency needs of missing, lost, and found or displaced children, but also link them to the services for their short and long-term care and rehabilitation. Today, her organization has founded and reunited with family 392 children, committed 52 children to government homes for safe care and custody, documented 11 as deceased, and is still searching for another 110, making that as a total of 565 children. In September 2019, Maryana was awarded and recognized as a top 40 under 40 Kenyan women 2019 for her outstanding work as Kenya's first champion for missing children's rights. She continues to work hard so as to create national and international partnerships. The issue of missing children to amend laws, hence enhance data sharing and timely reporting of the missing. She's a founding member of the technical working group spearheaded by the Department of Children's Services that has been working to develop standard procedures for missing children in Kenya. A children's author, her motivation behind writing a children's book was to use storytelling and creativity to teach children about their own safety. High Five is the first of the safety stories series targeting children aged between 3 and 5. The adventures of Kito and Lulu mirror children's everyday experiences through which we can teach them about safety. Maryana strongly believes that the time to start integration and constructive use of technology by children and young adults is now, because of its benefits to Kenya for child protection, education, exemplary citizenship, the community, advocacy, and business. Her parting shot, protecting children is a shared responsibility of government, law enforcement authorities, parents, guardians, caregivers, and the community. It takes a village to raise a child, and with technological advances, the global village is now borderless and digital. That is a great CV, and please help me welcome Maryana Munyendo, our speaker for today's fellowship. Karibu sana, Maryana, over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and it is a privilege to share what about Missing Child Kenya in this platform. And today we are just going to talk about mapping and identifying child protection issues in general. And this is driven by the fact that child safety is not given the concern that it needs to be given in our communities. It always ends up being reactive. We will comment once we see a case that is really touching, but once that happens, we will go back to normal. And
Maryana, Maryana, just give me a second. Kindly increase your volume, I think, on your side, and everyone else kindly mute.
Okay, my volume is at maximum. I might try to increase my personal volume.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so yes, so this conversation is just to try to trigger our activities to move from being reactive towards proactive. And that is why we're having a discussion around mapping and identifying child protection issues. So as our president has introduced, Missing Child Kenya is a community-led initiative. We depend a lot on crowdsourcing for the search, trace, and reunification of missing children. The reason I started this organization is because I realized people do not know what to do or where to go to in case that a child goes missing. And I'll start by giving a simple example. Within Nairobi, our main court for handling all children's matters is the Milimani Children's Court. A lot of people do not know that over the week, when police stations collect any lost and found children, for this child to be committed to a children's home, they must pass through Milimani Children's Court. And so by the time a parent is looking for their child everywhere else, of course, except there, it becomes a really haggard process. So we try to put information together so that we can help make this process faster. We depend on three things. We look at time. Time is very important when a child goes missing. It's not like an adult where you will go and report and you'll be told to wait for 48 hours. Anything can happen to a child. Images are very important. Without an image, it's very hard to know which child you're looking for. And factual information. By factual information, I mean that sometimes a child may share a nickname, or because of the situation, they may not share all the important information about themselves. And even a distressed parent might not have the clarity of mind to share this information accurately. And so when we come together to collect this information and share it across the networks, we are in a way presenting something that is more helpful to this family at the end of the day. Why are we doing this? I have picked 5 areas of concern over the number of years we've been operational since 2016. The first thing I look at is child trafficking. Child trafficking is there, and it is a concern. The 2019 Global Report on Trafficking in Persons, released in June 2019 by the US Department of State, it profiles Kenya as a Tier 2 source, transit point, and destination for people subjected to sex trafficking and forced labor. And they show that 1 in every 6 victims trafficked is a child. That's the first concern that we have, that child trafficking is there and Kenya is a source, transit point, and destination. The second issue is orphanage trafficking. So many children are living in orphanages, despite the fact that a good percentage of those children are not orphans. Again, there's a trafficking in persons report that's normally released annually. It recognized formally in 2017. It's called the Trafficking in Persons Tip Report. It recognized formally in 2017 that orphanages are a destination point for trafficked children. A lot of people have unregistered homes that when they find a child, they do not see the need to report this child, and so they keep this child for the benefit of sponsorship. And the third area of concern is differently abled children. For example, children on the autism spectrum, they are at a greater risk of getting lost if they wander off from care, and they may not be able to give helpful details to reunite them with family. And so this is becoming an increasing area of concern. Another area of concern that is often underlooked is infertility. Medical care for women facing infertility issues is expensive and inaccessible. And of course, the stigma of infertility in African culture is a contributing factor to the theft of children. What will I do? I will steal a child to hold my marriage together. And this is closely tied to the fifth reason, which is demeaning cultural practices. Cultural practices like the for a male child as an heir puts children at risk. A family without a male child or an heir is not respected in most Kenyan communities, and therefore you find that sometimes someone may steal a child, and specifically a boy child, to kill two birds with one stone, out of lack of a better word. And so these are some of the areas or the issues that we have seen over the years in our casework. One of the things that is a problem that is making this a challenge, I would say, is the situation that this is not a case unique to Kenya only, but it's a case unique to Africa. There is no national database on the number of missing children. There is nowhere in Kenya that you will go and you'll say, this is the number of missing children today or in the last 6 months or so. And this is because our registration, birth and registration systems and even other systems are yet to come up and be able to handle such data. And so when we started in July 2016, it was hard to give a snapshot of the data on missing children. And data is very important because without this data, you cannot be able to inform policy. You cannot be able to say, we need a budget extension for these cases of missing children because you do not have the data. And so for the first time in December 2019, we were able to look at the data that we've handled, and it was able to give us a snapshot of what are some of the risk areas that I have listed earlier on. And we realized ages 0 to 5 are very vulnerable. They post our highest cases of missing children so far. And again, in this age 0 to 5, a higher category is boy child, male children. And this is also because of the related factor I spoke about, infertility and African cultural practices. Another age bracket that comes out strongly is the teens. I would say between prepubescent up until 16. Between 11 and 16 is also a high risk area, and this area also poses a larger number, but interestingly, female children, female gender, and this also is strongly linked to child trafficking or child prostitution or child sexual exploitation. So those are some of the few areas that we have seen. And in this, again, we saw that there are several counties that did not report a case to our toll-free line. And this is not claim access to or marginalized areas. And so there's still some areas like Kwale, Tana River, Lamu, Isiolo, Marsabit, Wajir, Mandera, you know the areas. It's a bit hard to get some of this information because of their sparse networks and their sparse resources. Legislature is a key impediment to a lot of what is happening globally in terms of missing children. When we started doing what we are doing currently, we looked around the continent for peer support. We were looking for an African country that has unique challenges to the continent like us to see where we can be able to do a comparative analysis. And out of the whole of Africa, we found only 4 countries that are actively handling matters of missing children. In Egypt, they have a component, but it was only started after the emergency period to record the number of children not reunited with family. In South Africa, it has been there for quite a while, missing children in South Africa, but earlier on, politically, it was handling, of course, the Boers. It was not handling a major portion of African children, South African children of African descent. If you come up to Central Africa, Nigeria also started a unit, but it also started it in response to the Chibok girls, when the girls went missing and they're still being looked for. Not all the girls have come back. And so many countries, because of this, do not have specific laws addressing missing children. Kenya is one of them. And so this is one of the challenges and active things that we are keeping on a day-to-day basis, looking more in depth at our national strategies and our country-specific mechanisms. And let's say just going into something as simple as, okay, we could be having the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, we could be having the protocols on the sets of children and all those, but what does our Kenyan Children's Act specifically say about care of children? And what specifically does it say about missing children? And so legislature is one of the things that needs to be worked on. I have been an active person in terms of lobbying. By good luck, the current Children's Act bill is under review. And so we were able to put in a clause to help to define just who a missing child is before we get to saying, then this is the missing child and this is what should be done when it comes to the missing child. And what is the need for this? The need for proper legislature is because we need to have one playbook. Currently, our policemen are doing an amazing job, but not all of them are aware of what should happen. We have had cases where a child, an 11-year-old autistic boy, was brought to a police station. He had been missing, and because he's autistic, he does not display any symptoms of any maladjustment, or out of lack of a better word, any disability. The policeman asked him, do you know home? The boy said yes. The policeman said, then go back home. And so if our law enforcement, if our children's services officers would be able to know this is one playbook, then we can be able to have everyone reacting in the same manner to be able to assist when it comes to matters of missing children. That being said, I would say in the last 3 years, we have handled 561 cases. Out of this, 392 children have been found and reunited with their families. 110 are still missing. 52 children have been committed to government homes for safe care. And out of all these cases, 11 children have been documented as deceased. How are we doing this, and what are we trying to do to be able to cover the whole country? There's no one key fits all approach in this, and so we are exploring several approaches that will work. For instance, when we started, we realized that the one impediment that we have is children from lower income families. These cases may not get the highlighting that they need, even in mainstream media, because they will not be able to know someone who knows someone who knows someone who works in a media house. That was the number one issue we saw. And then we said, let us take advantage of the existing platforms to put out their cases and also look at how to lobby with the media for them. The second thing that we also saw still on the lower income families is if I have airtime of maybe 20 shillings, I'll use that airtime very, very carefully. And so I might not be able to give accurate information of my missing child. And that's why we set up the toll-free line so that someone can be able to call, whether they are reporting or following up their child, without the pressure of fearing that, the way we say in Swahili, nakatwa credit. My credit is being cut, or my credit is being spent. Branded text alerts. We also realized that in displaying these messages, we do not want to create fear, because sometimes when people visit our different platforms and you see every day maybe 2 or 3 children are missing, you may start panicking because you have not quite zoned in and said this is this specific area. And so we said, let us create certain closed user groups where we can be having children's officers and law enforcement officers that are area-based, where if they receive this targeted SMS alert, then they will be able to disseminate them in their communities. Because again, it wears someone's, whether or not you're a parent, that every other time you're receiving a missing child, a missing child. So we said, again, let us try to centralize that and divide it in areas. What has been able to work for us is partnerships, community partnerships. We have realized that this is a community-led initiative. If I am looking for a child, I will ask next door. And so that is why an alert that can be able to be quickly disseminated in a WhatsApp group, on Facebook, on social media, is very key in putting out information. Another thing that we have also tried to explore when I talk about different solutions for a common goal is notice boards. We also noticed in certain areas like Kibera and Madare, if my child is missing, a parent will tell you, I have time to look for this child because in the morning I have to rush down to industrial area, secure my job, work, then come back in the evening, do a little bit of a search before it becomes dark. And so I may not have that time, and I don't have any other person who is helping me. And so we set up a model at the Nairobi Children's Court and in Kibera Law Courts. We have installed a physical notice board because we realize these are high traffic public access areas, which are more like hubs, where they act as an information channel for the surrounding area. A lot of the people within Kibera, they'll go down to the Huduma Center area, or they'll also come to the law courts area. And so installing a physical notice board, more like the ones that are normally in town on Moi Avenue where people post job alerts, we work in collaboration with the office of that area to be able to put up alerts for that area. And when a parent comes there or someone who is searching for their child, it is two ways. Either the child has already been posted there or has not been posted there, and they will be given instructions on how to call us and we'll be able to share information. In all this, what we try to offer is administrative or practical support, emotional support, legal support through connection to entities that can be able to provide free or reduced cost for legal services, assistance in contacting authorities. Some people may not know that if I report at a police post, I might need to escalate this matter to a children's area or a police station that has a children's desk, for instance. Family support, referral, prevention and information awareness for the families. And so a typical day at Missing Child Kenya, we could receive about 30 alerts a month. We receive about an alert a day, maybe 3 calls. Out of 3 calls, 2 might end up being resolved because someone will call maybe at 10 a.m. By the time them go to the police station, you find something as interesting as maybe the child was just under the bed, and so one might end up listed as the child is still missing. So in all this, someone may ask, what happens to these children? Where do these children go? The number one thing is the usual. Children get lost. They can just get if they are going somewhere, they are not aware of their surroundings, they may get lost. And something I always like to share with a lot of people is even in the Bible, Jesus himself got lost at age 12 when they went over to the temple, the Passover. And his reaction was really atypical to any child who would get lost. He told his parents, didn't you know I was in my father's house? If I ask you to respond as a Kenyan parent who has had their child missing, Jesus would have received a beating at that point. I digress. If the second reason is, like I said, child trafficking is there. The third reason, child abuse is there. And if I speak about child abuse, in this period that our children are within their homes, they are not at school, they are not moving around so much. we still also receive cases of missing children, and this is because the reasons that children go missing are varied. Sometimes children run away from home because the situation at home is not favorable. And so those are some of the reasons that we would say children go missing. Another key reason why children also go missing, custodial battles are on the increase. One parent will take the child or vice versa to get leverage when there's a disagreement in the relationship. Like I said, it is not a one solution, a silver bullet. Exploring different ways, partnerships have worked a lot for us. I'll give an example of a few partnerships. Last year, we had a partnership with the Kenya Premier League during the Mashemeji Derby. Of course, the match between AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia is one of also the most well-attended matches in terms of fan followership within the Kenya Premier League. And so during this period, we decided to use images as mascots on the playing pitch. We were able to put out 22 missing children, and through the consequent media coverage, 4 out of the 22 children were immediately found and reunited with the family within 3 days after the match, which was on a Sunday. We also have had a partnership with AS Roma, Italian's football team. We were looking at them using also their social media platforms as a way that they can be able to increase their relationship with the East African community and also use their platforms for good. So if I look at where we stand and the journey ahead, which I would maybe look at things that we ponder a lot on in our day-to-day work. Number one, we are looking at jurisdiction and interagency support for cross-border cases. East Africa is very porous. A lot of our cases end up we have had children being stolen and ending up in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi. So if we look at how to lobby as a bloc and get interagency support for cross-border cases, we might be able to resolve some of these matters first. Again, gender, boy child versus girl child. There are certain highlights of gender motivated incidences, and we need to look into this more and see how to protect the children that are at risk within the different gender clusters. During the school holiday period, there's a rise in cases because of lack of structure at home. When a child is at school, you almost know that they will leave at this time and they will arrive at this time. Again, something that we are really still working on, we have the toll-free line 0800 22344, but we have not yet received any distress call that is directly from a child, where a child will be able to say, my name is so-and-so and I'm lost, or someone would call on their behalf. So we want to work towards being able to have also the children know that this is a line they can reach out to directly. Night search is a challenge for families, search parties, law enforcement. It is hard to so most of the time when a child goes missing in the day, by 7 p.m., 8 p.m., the search falls only to the family that is in distress. Placement of children at temporary points of safety. This is very difficult because sometimes you find a police station. I'll give an example. We once went to pick a child at Nyayo Stadium Police Station, and what had happened, police officers are human beings, they have children. So the traffic officer had just taken his big jacket, covered this 3-year-old boy, and the boy was sleeping behind the OB desk. So officers end up taking the child to their home because there are few or no points of safety. Another big area is street children. It's hard to document who is a street child and who is a missing child. It's a gray area because a lot of street families. One thing that we are also still campaigning for every day in our work is the OB number. Do we have to wait for 48 hours to declare a child officially missing so as to get an OB number from the police? Does that also indicate the allocation of time and resources to this case as we wait for 48 hours? Media, again, the challenge here when it comes to media highlighting these cases, sometimes they only focus on files cases or scoop stories. And so these everyday cases might not get to the eyes of the media. There's training needed for all persons in, like I said, the public need to know what to do. For instance, you as a good Samaritan need to know what you can do when you find a child missing, a lost child on the road, where to take them, or even if you stay with them for the night, make sure that you have reported. Child services, schools, institutions, even children themselves need to be protected and trained in their own protection. Information sharing across agencies is a challenge. You will find an NGO, a child service officer, a police station have different clusters of cases of missing children. So we want everyone to give a common database that can be used freely and accessed by everyone. Sometimes DNA testing is needed and it is expensive and a costly matter. We lack progressive images of children. It's hard to use technology to say that this child went missing in 1996 and this is how they will be looking like. And even sometimes we even lack images. Children who went lost, who went missing before a lot of mobile phones got cameras, some of their images are not there. And then how do we handle sensitive information that belongs to the police only? How do we observe the best interests of the child, their privacy? Because sometimes a case has been resolved or a case is ongoing, went missing, they have been found, and maybe they were abused, they were molested and things like those, but they need to retain their right to privacy after the case has been resolved. And then there are repeat cases. How do we in these repeat cases and flag them in the system? And above all, what does the law say about missing children in care? So in short, that is just a presentation of what we do and the need of highlighting some of the areas that we need to work on with different agencies so that we can be able to protect our children and keep them safe. I think with that, and
I will open any questions. Have any questions for in soft? Some question? Question? Kibera.
Still help him by asking the.
We have. How can we help?
yes. And Lydia also has a question, and maybe she can go ahead.
Yeah, Lydia, just don't raise your hand, just go ahead.
Even Peter Kanake.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Marianne, for that presentation. It was very enlightening. I have a question with regard to what you spoke about child trafficking. And especially because most of the child traffickers are foreigners. And this links is foreign adoptions. So I work with the Office of the AG, and I remember sometime, I think in 2014, 2015, there was a moratorium placed by the Attorney General to stop foreign adoptions. But that expired, I think, after a couple of years, but it was extended sometime last year indefinitely. So is there has this been helpful in preventing these child trafficking cases in Kenya? And then also, let me just ask the other question about the legislation. I know there are some amendments that are pending, but there's been a lot of back and forth, especially between the Law Society of Kenya and Parliament and the Child Welfare Society. So if you could clarify what exactly that dispute is, because I don't understand why the LSK should be fighting amendments that protect the rights of children, for instance. So, yeah, those are my two questions.
Maryana, if you don't mind, we can take another two so that you can answer them for the three people. Is that okay?
No problem.
Okay, Kanake, and the one from Kibs, of how Kibs asked, how can we help? And then Kanake, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Maryana, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, so thing is, I just out of curiosity, there's some two boys who've been missing for quite, I think they're twin boys. And I think they're still listed, they went missing when I think they were 4. That was around 6 years ago. I just want to find out what the status is and what you normally do in such cases where after such a long time you haven't found the kids. The second thing is not a question. I never got to personally thank you for helping friends of mine find their son last year. And that was really amazing. I see what you guys have done and I'm really grateful for what you guys do. Thanks.
Great.
Okay, so just go ahead with those ones.
Okay, so I'll start with for and the foreign adoptions. The temporary moratorium on the stop order on adoptions and also registration of children's homes was because of the child trafficking, orphanage trafficking that I'm speaking of. And in a way, it was able to control the number of children that were on transit. And it also helped to control and start to identify some of these child trafficking cartels. And this week, actually, the National Adoption Agency has also been reset up. I think I saw the Gazette order, last week on Thursday or Friday. Because again, with the extended moratorium, again, the cartels found ways of getting deeper into the black market and going into other avenues of still carrying out the same processes. And that is why we were still able to see that certain matters are still going on. Children are still being moved and adopted in courts. And so we are hoping that this national committee will now realign matters and be able to set up formally systems that will be able to help people. But all in all, corruption is a big problem in this sector, because anyone who is really craving for a child sadly will do anything to get a child. And so corruption is still rife even within the system as it is, as much as it's trying to be improved. But then again, this temporary moratorium informed people that these are some of the corners that our children are at risk. And even if someone comes and they want to assist, they should be able to assist without coming in with different motives. That is number one. The second question about Child Welfare Society of Kenya. Look at it, different factors at play. I would say, again, there's different government bodies with different interests. And that is why I keep saying that in my lobbying, I say everyone should work with one principle, the best interests of the child. How can everyone put aside that and come to the table and say, this is a relatively new matter in this sector. How can we start looking at it together so that we can start understanding it and working towards it? Kanake, your question on the children that are still missing, I believe they are twins, brothers. They went missing along Kiambu Road about, yes, you're right, 6 years ago. So what we do is, a lot of a parent's biggest worry is people will forget my child. People will forget that my child is missing. We keep these cases as case files that are active unless proven otherwise. We will only document that this child has been found or this child has been otherwise declared deceased because of evidence that the child has been found deceased. There's a process for declaring a person totally deceased after several years in Kenya, about 10 or so years. And we are yet to come to that because certain procedures, a lot of the time it's adults that pursue these cases because maybe there's certain estates in mind for being looked at. Someone is trying to close so that they can get certain closure or property from someone. But from children, again, these are areas that it is yet to be confirmed that someone has legally registered their child as dead because every parent wants to keep hope alive. How can we help? Someone asked, how can we help? Partnerships are very key. We're looking for media partnerships. We are looking for training partnerships. We are looking for homes that are able to take in these children temporarily. We are looking for facilities that are able to provide support. Psychosocial support is very, very important to these families. And so it's different areas that we would seek support. Allow me to take the next batch of questions, President, Chair.
We have Tina. Tina, then George, and then Castell. In that order, please. George, keep it short.
Hi, Maryana. Thanks for the talk. Very informative. Now, my question is, do you charge for your service? One. Then two, how does a mother in like Busia know of your organization if their child probably is stolen and brought to Nairobi? So how do you connect with such a person?
Okay. I'm waiting for the question.
The next one.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Mine is, what do you see? Do you see a role in technology in regards to enabling you to find kids, to reach more parents and to find children much more?
Thank you very much. Talk, very informative. Two questions. What is the case where you do get a child who's not lost but is a runaway and does not want to go home? Do you force the kid one of these things? That is question number one. Question number two, what happens for kids who are in transition from childhood to adulthood, who are within your care, meaning that this kid has been within the care of such an organization and transits from 17 years to 18 years. Do you throw them out there as adults, or do you have a transition phase for them to go into the community?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So I can take that one. Then I'm seeing some online. I can come back to the ones in the group chat. So I'll start with the question about charge. We do not charge for our services. This is a service that is free of charge to the parents and the families in need. And this is because, number one, I stepped into that gap because I realized a lot of the parents are being charged by unscrupulous people who tell them, pay me this amount, then we can be able to track whoever has your child and whatnot. But if you work within the confines of the ability to connect this needy families to services that can still do tracking where there's need for tracking without them being charged, I don't see the need of exploiting people. And that is why we are registered as a nonprofit and we depend a lot on donor or corporate support to be able to have this available for the families in need. You asked about how a child in Busia or a mother in Busia can be able to know. We have really tried to leverage on existing networks so that we can be able to manage our reach. With our limited budget and resources and also limited knowledge of how to operate the whole country, we decided to partner with agencies that have countrywide reach. So we work very closely with the Department of Children's Services, and this assures us that in each county, sub-county, up until the area advisory council, there's a children's officer that we can be able to reach in an area where a child goes missing. So what normally happens is when a parent goes to report in a police station, they'll probably also be sent to the consequent children's office, and then the report will get us, because we are also working in collaboration with the children's department to be able to help them document these cases. Now, saying that is one thing, because again, being also a young organization, a new organization, not a lot of parents also know. So some of the county penetration has been on a case basis. You might find we are not in a certain area in this county because we have not handled a case there, and still they're not yet aware of that. So some of the partnerships that we would also be seeking would be media partnerships or awareness partner, a partner to come in and help us penetrate a certain area, create awareness that we are there to be able to help. Someone has asked about technology. Technology plays a big role in what we are doing, because through technology we are able to disseminate this information to the biggest number of people in the shortest time, and that is what is needed in terms of an emergency when a child goes missing. Over the last 2 years, we have been at a great debate of an app versus a super website. A lot of people will tell you there are apps for everything. Right now, you're ordering for food, people are dating, people are doing everything on apps. But are we ready for an app? Are we ready? What kind of traffic would we drive on an app outside of looking for a missing child? What else would be there? We can argue that we can have some educational content and whatnot, but then what would make the parents and communities stick to that app? Are we looking at the mobile phone versus feature phone penetration? Are we looking at availability of data for some of these communities? So as we are working towards the bigger solution of taking advantage of the whole spectrum technology, we are still at the baseline where we are looking at small things like how can we make a super website? How can we take advantage of the other small elements of technology? And that's why I was saying it's more like a stew. It's more like a stew where we have put some potatoes, minjis, carrots, everything, text messages, small aspects of technology that are working in different pockets, because again, different areas have unique challenges. But I would still agree that technology is the underlying supporter of what we do. Runaways. Yes, the reason we are very keen on working with the Department of Children's Services and also working with the police and looking at a case from a child is before a child is returned home, when a child is lost and found and they're taken to a police station. A lot of times when we post this on our social media platforms, people tell us, why don't you just put this child in a car and take them to their home? They're like, we need the guardian or parent to arrive at the point of the child is. Then we have a discussion, and some of the discussions might also give a lead to the vulnerability of this child, and so you might not see the need to return this environment that is harmful to them. That is number one. But again, the third thing is sometimes I would say the world is not fair. We don't get our cake and eat it every day. Sometimes the very situation where you don't need to return a child sometimes becomes the only situation where the child needs to return to. So again, we've had such things, and I must admit that some cases have fallen through the net. Transition, so when a child gets committed to an institution, they're still under 17, and then they get to 18. Unfortunately, once the transition arrives, again, our systems do not have a halfway house or a halfway holding facility where we can be able to say that in this period between 18 to 21, then this child can be able to be assisted with this before they go out to the world. When they finish and they get their papers of emancipation, they go out to the world. So we do not have adequate support mechanisms. A few NGOs might have that, and you might be able to connect a few of these minors who have now become adults to these services, but it is a bit difficult. I hope I've answered the 4 questions sufficiently. So
thank you so much, Maryana. We will take a question from Joki.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will go to the ones that have been posted on the chat.
Okay.
Joki?
Thank you, Joki. My question is, how long? Okay, you answered. How long do you keep a missing child record? My other question is, how do you deal with cases of missing children as a result of marital or domestic feuds? And number two, how do you verify the OB numbers for, let's say someone posts on Facebook or Twitter, and then they give you, this is the OB number that I was given at the police. How do you go back to verify that information as accurate?
Okay, we'll take that one, Maryana.
Then we can scroll down to
Then we'll have Josh. Oh, no, let's take Josh and Emma before we go to the ones on the group. I think they're the last people to raise their hands, then we can go to the chat.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for that excellent talk. I think very informative. Two brief ones. Number one, when I think child trafficking in Kenya, the first thing that comes to my head is Gilbert Dare. I remember seeing him being brought back a few years back. Then I don't know, by end of last year, he was back on the pulpit. I'm not too sure. What's his story? Where is he? Are those cases active? That is one. Two, this is more of a comment than a question. I agree with George and also what you said. Technology can offer an excellent platform in terms of supporting this, and it will be good to actually see if you can extend the partnerships, maybe even with people who are coming up with things within the tech space. If you share your thoughts and ideas of people in the tech space, it could bring up even greater ideas in terms of what we can achieve with that. Just a thought. Thank you.
Okay, Emma.
Okay, thanks. So mine is more of an experience. I'll try and make it short. I once came home, and then when I was going to Nakumatt, I just found a boy sitting just outside the fence, and it struck me like he was a bit lost. So I asked him, "What's up?" He said he's lost. So what I was scared to bring him home because I didn't know what to do. It was about 7. So I came, I got a blanket or a shawl, I took to him, I sat with him. So I tried to ask him, where is he from? He was very uncooperative, wasn't answering. Then it hit me that some kids have books with their parents. So I asked him for his bag. He was not cooperating. So somehow we managed to get the bag, and we got the book, and we called the mom. And that the mom came, she was so, she was quite in agony because she was wondering, his school's in Kawangware. So he had walked all the way to Nakumatt Prestige. So she explained, she was grateful because at that point I was wondering, it was about 11 o'clock. Do I take the boy home? I mean, it's a boy. I hear we are not allowed. Or do I take him to the cops? And then what will the cops do? Will they ask him me to come with him? So luckily we got the mom. The mom came and she was like, I don't know what he'd done with her phone. So I think he was scared of being beaten up. So I think he had opted from school in Kawangware to just walk towards Kilimani area. So finally the mom came and she went home with him. But I thought, what ideally would one do in such a practical, if I ever get in such a situation before? I know you've briefly explained kids who don't want to go home, but this was kind of temporary. So what does one do if it's a bit late? Do you go with them home with the fear of being accused of kidnapping, or what does one do? Yeah.
Great. Madam Chair, I can proceed with this?
Yes, please.
Okay, so domestic feuds and missing children. That is the importance of working with agencies that have the mandate to deal with such cannot be overstressed. I would say a lot of the time when it comes to a domestic feud, you will find that this parent will say this other parent has done that. There's a lot of accusations. Some of them even become as colorful as evidence of maybe abuse. Sometimes it is unfounded. And so the important thing is when we have an intake form, a standard intake form that we have adopted from the global organization that deals with cases of missing children of different countries. And so they have developed a standard intake form that the information we collect helps us determine is this child with the two parents at the time of them going missing? Which parent were they with? So as we continue with collecting information on this intake form, we are able to determine a few things here and there. And once we also have those questions in the intake form and we see that this is a domestic feud, we also quickly, immediately involve the children's office of their area, because now this matter also becomes a custodial matter. And so once we deal with that from that angle, we are able to have an agency that can be able to handle this matter in the way it is trained or mandated to handle it. Verification of OB number. We have this habit of posted as received, which normally helps sometimes in a lot of cases. But what we normally do again is when we receive, for instance, I could be in the Madaraka WhatsApp group and someone will post something and will say, I've seen this case of a missing child. We will not take it and immediately post it as it is on our platforms. We will subject it to the same procedure of our intake form and go through it, determine which police station it has been shared, because at the end of the day, every case that we post on different alerts, we have also been incorporated in different police groups that we share, and there's ability for it to be cross-checked and said, this has gone to this CPU unit, or this is with this area command. And so it's very important that we verify through our intake form. Bishop there. Those are some of the things that make you either annoyed or they inspire you, they make you want to do more every day in your different areas. Not just to highlight him, but a few other people. Some of the people that are in child trafficking rings, unfortunately, have deep and fat pockets. So they will keep resurfacing. And so that is why it is very important that someone keeps highlighting and saying, hey, these children are missing. How far has this person's case gone? I know the last time I followed, his wife had been successfully extradited and she was brought down to Langata, and she was saying the conditions are unfriendly. She wants to report from home and come for the case. So I'm not quite sure what would the case be. But I would just say in general, there and others, they have fat pockets. Corruption still reigns. I don't know how we can be able to get to the bottom of these pockets of these people and direct this money elsewhere. The person who found a child, it is normally confusing because I'll give an example. The reality, there's what is on the textbook. There's even what even us as Missing Child Kenya, we have put very beautifully on our website and in our documentation that if you find a child, this is step 1 up to 10. But the reality behind this is you might end up with 17 or 19 steps because of the gaps in our system. And so I would tell people this, most of our police stations don't have the capacity to host a child overnight. Very few have CP child protection units or child protection desks, or even somewhere a child can be comfortable. So the ideal thing is when you find a missing child, if you want to go home with them, of course, make sure that you have also protected yourself by going to a police station. When you go to a police station and log in the matter, then you have the freedom to go home with this child because you have logged in the matter, and another jurisdiction might not arrive and say, you are the person that we have found with this child, and so you are at fault. So it's very important that the first thing you do is you log a report. And the second, a lot of people fear taking in a missing child because it will be their burden. Sometimes you end up with this child for 10, 15 days, 2 years, who knows? Some people have even stayed with children for life. True. So again, we encourage people, once you give us the case and it has been recorded with the police, we are helping you look for this child family. We will not rest until their family has been found. So I would just encourage people, when you find a child, don't be afraid that it will be your burden. Give this child a secure environment, but make sure you have protected yourself and you have also protected the child by logging the complaint at your nearest police station. And it will be hard to go home with a child and find that 2-3 years from now, you're still with the child. A lot of the times, sometimes the people who stay with these children for the 2 or 3 years is because they don't know the follow-up procedures as well. You can still go back and get this child legally committed to a public institution until when their family is found. Great.
Okay, thank you.
And call Maryana while at it.
Sawa.
Yes, call me.
Okay,
So,
Mariana, I think we can
okay.
just take a few now. We can take a few from the chats. Then we call it a day.
So someone asked about how can we help. I talked about partnerships. Someone else is asking how much are the storybooks, can we get them in these COVID times. COVID times. So this is the storybook. High five. It's part of our fundraising activity. Proceeds from this book go towards supporting the toll-free line. A copy goes for 350 Kenya shillings, and we can arrange for delivery at costs. Then we can. We also plan in this time of restrictions to movements. We plan around residential areas because the target audience, the end recipient, will be in your residential area. If we have several copies, then we can batch them, bring them over, and they'll be able to make an easy approach. We'll leave my number for contact for those who need them. What can we do to protect our children, and guidelines on what they should do? For this, there's quite a lot we can do. I will send you to our website, www.missingchild.co.ke. On the blog section, there's different safety tips on what we need to do for different areas, what you can do at the mall, what you can do at school, what you can do in terms of labeling their clothing, what you can do in terms of teaching a child age appropriate, the phone number, things like those. Someone is asking, Lucy is asking, do you have a specific age group for children you look into? 0 to 18 is our categorized age group, legally described as children. Missing infants in hospital, we have handled a few cases. 0 to 18, we pick up all the cases. We recently added 18 to 21 for special needs category. We have children, people with different developmental ability mentally, and they are still going to schools where children are under 18. So we have looked at extending that category to 21 for special needs. Josiah wants me to share on the Rotary initiative that led you to come to our meeting. That was my closing point, Josiah, but oh well. So there is what is called RAGAS, Rotarians Against Human Trafficking and Exploitation. It's just been given the acronym RAGAS. I applied to join RAGAS globally because I wanted to be a champion in terms of leading the conversation in our sector on child trafficking, child sexual abuse. So it's the Rotarian Action Group Against Child Slavery. It's very specific on child protection. And I thought it would be also something that would lend a lot into what we do. And so that is how I've ended up fellowshipping with this Rotary Club of Madaraka. Jen would like to volunteer. How can I go about it? Yay, Jen Mwiruri, I will get your contacts and I'll let you know how you can be one of our community champions in terms of sharing information based on your area. And also you can be our feedback mechanism within your area. And there's also a lot of other activities. Once we open up, once COVID ends, we have different school programs, community programs. That's also where we get a lot of volunteers. But for now, because of the situation, things are a bit closed. Hotspots you have identified: Nairobi, slum areas. People target children from low-income areas because they're an easy sell, easy to convince. Even it's easier to convince a child. Sadly, parents have sold children from that area. Again, high transit areas. Machakos Country Bus is one of the areas that we have a lot of people reporting children missing. Someone is asking if we work with Kenya Red Cross. Yes, we work with Kenya Red Cross, the tracing unit, where we are able, in emergencies, they share with us information about children that are either still being looked for or lost and found, and we're able to put out the information on our platforms. I think I have covered the questions online. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this presentation. I will ambush Emma to give a vote of thanks.
Oh, one more thing.
To Mariana. Okay, Mariana.
I would like to provide the WhatsApp only number that we can be easily reached on, because I would not, for any other queries. For the toll-free line, please call when we are getting a missing child. For the WhatsApp only line, we can be able to get inquiries on any other services or any other questions that may not have been handled here. It is 0704 447 417. I will list it in the group chat so that we can be able to
Yes.
communicate for those who might have any other questions, or how we can be able to work with them, even in this time, to talk to their community, set up meetings, set up discussions, your estate, how can you fortify your estate better, things like those.
Okay, thank you so much. Emma?
Okay, well, where do I start? I think I just want to say thank you so much, Maryana. Children are our future, and with this selfless step of just, going out of your way to take care of them and to engaging in policies that enable us to protect our future generations, I think it's commendable. And also thank you for involving us, because as you can see, we even have volunteers now. It's something that touches deep in every human's heart. So I want to say thank you so much for taking time to give us this talk and to give us this such a precise and definite and organized talk. Even from the questions, it means people are very curious about how to enhance, how to deal with these lost children. So thank you so much, and keep on doing what you're doing and spreading the word. And I'm sure you'll have volunteers inboxing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.